according to the computer here. And
Mine still says 6:08. This computer says 6:08.
here's the
I have 6 o'clock on
forward person, I guess.
every time.
This one needs to, this one needs.
Yep. Okay, and so we have had one request from Anna to be excused. She has a family situation that needs to be dealt with.
Would you like me to do roll call?
Let's do a roll call.
Member Bill Bengesa,
Here.
Member Richard Beneke,
Here.
Vice Chair Thomas the Masters,
Here.
Chair Steve Cooley,
Here.
Treasurer Baron Janetti,
Here.
Councilmember Carroll,
Here.
and Mayor Martinez is absent.
Okay. With that over, let's do our Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Master will lead us.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda or any adjustments. Anybody aware of any adjustments on the current agenda that we need to address? Okay, it doesn't appear to be so we'll move on. The next item is conflict of interest disclosure. Anybody have a conflict of interest they need to disclose? Okay. And the next item is the public comments. I don't see any public. Have we had any requests? Okay, allows us to move right on to the first actual numbered item on our agenda, which is the adoption of the minutes. Go ahead and take a few minutes and look at that. That's the meetings from our last, minutes from our last meeting.
Move to adopt.
I'll second.
Any comments, anything? If not, we'll go ahead and approve these. And the next item on the agenda is the November financial reports. We have them. Is there a presentation that's going to be made?
Well, and we got to apologize because normally they would have been in your packet. We had computers went down Friday when we were generating the packet, so we didn't get a chance to get them to you ahead of time. So apologize for that. We didn't have that fixed, however. But if you look at our budget, we're really still kind of on schedule and tracking. We are looking to bring forward our first budget adjustment. We usually try to do those, evaluate those on a quarterly to semi-annual basis. So we'll be looking at a budget adjustment we'll be bringing to council probably in February, early February. So we'll be discussing that with you as well. There's just some cleanup things, not anything really significant that we need to do moving forward, but as we have certain savings and need to move money around, we've got some opportunities to do some things like that. So really, there's no red flags for us. We think we're still on track and kind of moving forward.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
On the wastewater budget, the overall analysis stipulated that the trending is slightly over the budget, driven by higher debt service costs. The debt service costs are related to the sale of bonds, or?
Yeah, we sold our bonds a little bit later in the year, so our debt service schedule came out after we put together a lot of our budget for the wastewater side. So we had programmed and forecast what that debt service was going to be in our budget. So our actual debt service came out later. So that's what we had.
And that's higher than what you actually budgeted?
Yeah, it's a little bit higher. So
how much higher?
It was about $200,000 or so in that range.
Okay. Anything else? It looks like there are no surprises or anything there that we should be concerned about. Then we'll move it on to the council assigned tasks, and let's just run through those.
Do we need a
Chair,
motion?
before we, yes, please.
Yes, sorry. Need a motion to approve
Receive and file, please.
and to file. To file. Yeah, receive and file.
I move that we receive and file.
We have a second?
Second.
Any opposed? All right. Okay, we're back on track. Okay, so then we have the list of the council assigned tasks. And I'm not sure there really would be a lot that's changed. We come down to the first one, develop our CFD training program for local realtors and develop a CFD frequently asked questions. Anna's not here. And Mr. Beneke, anything changed on that? We're
Still waiting to talk to some local realtors. I've talked to quite a few realtors, but I guess we're looking at a more formal kind of a meeting to get their feedback and input. So just waiting for that to happen.
okay.
Todd was,
Did we say
Yes.
it's going to be probably mid-January or something by the time because of the holidays?
yeah, I know it's pushed back, but just want to make sure it gets done.
Okay.
Because we can keep pushing it back and nothing will get done.
Well, and Mayor Santos is meeting this week with the local board of realtors. And so I did ask him while he was there if he could just kind of reiterate to them that we're looking and that, who should we reach out to try to get something scheduled. And I mentioned to him that we'll probably be meeting on probably a Saturday morning, something like that if we talk about holding to our original meeting schedule. So, so that word is also being pushed out there.
Okay.
What wasn't though the gist of the meeting to just get feedback on kind of what we're proposing and see how they might accept that, or if they had things, other ideas that we haven't thought of maybe that would facilitate what our objective here?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so the discussion was to talk about the CFD program, to explore if there was going to be some effective information that the city could proactively provide to them, and kind of what routine program we can kind of implement kind of on an annualized basis to keep things up to speed. So, and kind of what that timing would need to be. So, to me, ideally, if you look at when we set the appraisal, and then we move forward, is in that September-October timeframe. So we get our assessments completed. We know what those assessments are going to look like, and then we can sit down with the realtors and do a refresher for them every year. So the key thing was, what are some key pieces we can put together that they can then hand out to their agents? And then what are some of the things that we can do to help keep that up to speed and keep everybody in the loop?
And also, as part and parcel to that effort, I think we were also looking at our consultant who currently provides answers to questions residents do have via a telephone number that's on the tax bill. We were looking at possibly getting a consensus of questions, kind of like if they're getting a lot of questions, what kind of questions, and maybe that could help us develop a more comprehensive Q&A, if you want to call it that.
Yes.
So, has anybody talked to our consultant? Webb?
I gave Anna the information. She said she was going to make that contact. So she may have, or she may still be waiting to do that. We'll check with her at our next meeting.
I thought somebody from the city was in
I can call Heidi. I can talk to her.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Okay. I think they would respond personally if somebody talked to the city.
Yes. Okay, I think that's on track. We have some timing issues, and we want to follow through with that. And we'll look at that again next month. The next item was to assist with the request for the RFP for the financial audit services. we know that's kind of on a hold until we finish up the audit and receive that audit, and we'll discuss that a little later. The third item was to evaluate the city's investment and financial policies. And again, I believe we were going to get through with this.
Yeah, we're trying to get through, but we did do this.
Yeah.
Jeff did review the current policy. And the policy that's there pretty much has enough latitude in it that we can make recommendations and not have to need a new policy. So the policy there is adequate to expand beyond the levers that we're using right now.
Okay.
We need to wait a little bit of time to bring in, he wants to bring in a couple of financial people to talk about it.
Okay.
Now, is this financial policy a council-approved policy?
The council.
Council-approved. No, I agree. If we could just take a look at it and maybe make some suggestions if it's adequate. We don't need to rewrite the book.
Basically, he said it's adequate now for where we want to go.
Oh, okay.
So we'll look to him for a little quick report on that next month if we pass that on. And then evaluate the security of the city's telecommunications system. As I recall, last month we have a new staff member coming on board. We want to give them a little bit of opportunity to figure out what's there and what kind of proposals and recommendations. Todd, do you have any feedback on when you think might be an appropriate time to lay that burden on him?
I think he got here about mid-December, so he's had a full, really kind of week and a half of work time. So I think we're ready to hit you in February.
All right.
If that's good for you.
And we're talking about developing a process for grant reporting, and I believe that's just generally sitting out there trying to get through the audit, get through the holidays, and then we can probably take a little more time to look at that after it settles down. I think Anna volunteered to do some handling with that, but she is coming into her busy season in her real job, and we're going to give her some time to finish that up. And the last one is develop.
Go back to this grant thing here.
Okay.
Grant reporting and grant writing are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Grant reporting is what kind of grants the city is
Yes.
receiving or possibly can receive.
Yes.
Or going after, or whatever. I mean,
Yes.
we get a report.
And so, that's the kind of report, not the reports that are required by the grant makers or the federal single audit. Just a report as to what kind of grants might be there. If we have somebody who has the capability and the time to search for possible grants, and that's what we're talking about by way of reporting. A report on that versus we're not talking about the reports of the grants. Yes.
I do want to make sure that the committee's aware that our lobbying firm typically shares with us on a regular basis grant ideas of where they know grant opportunities may be aligned with the city. So I wouldn't want the committee to think that we're not constantly in movement trying to find some grant opportunities that match. That doesn't mean that the committee shouldn't still look at this as an item and make sure that we're doing adequate work there. But I just don't want you to think that it's not happening at all. Townsend typically keeps us aware of both federal and state grants that they think align with the mission and purpose of the city and what our current strategies are.
That's good. The good information to have.
That is, and I'm glad to hear that. And the reason I bring this up is that through my, I don't want to say resources, but sources of people I talk to, there's going to be a lot of opportunities coming up in the next 3 to 5 years. 4 cities to get a lot of infrastructure stuff done. but you got to be prepared. If you're not prepared, you're going to the ship's going to sail. So I think it would behoove us to make sure that we're doing all we can to be prepared when these monies come, because they're going to be coming. It's not if, it's when.
Excuse me. A grant opportunity, as many of you know, it's kind of like economic development opportunity. There's always more that can be done. There's always another grant you can uncover. There's grant that comes under the visibility of our lobbyists, and those they try to make us aware of as they fall into place. There's also private grant opportunities, and we don't do a lot of activity in pursuing those, because typically that's where you have a staff that's constantly searching for private grant opportunities, like the Irvine Foundation or whatever, something that fits, that's more of a private foundation. We don't do a lot of activities, correct me if I say anything wrong here, Todd, but we don't do a lot of activity with the private grants. We do a lot more than probably everybody's aware of, the lobbyists making us aware of money that is synergistic with where we're going. And also, our public transportation department is constantly looking at grant opportunities to provide money for transportation projects, including, supplements to maintenance, to capital improvement projects, whatever they can. So those two areas are constantly working behind the scenes. They can be probably improved. There's probably input that we want to do on that, but I wouldn't want you to get the impression that we're kind of not doing anything with grants for the next 3 or 4 months until we talk about them. We are.
Okay, because I know that a lot of grants are contingent upon what they call shovel-ready projects that are fully anticipated, fully researched, plans of, they're just sitting there waiting for a funding source. People that have that kind of foresight and ability will reap the benefits when this money starts flowing. People that jump in trying to catch up will probably not get there. But it sounds like with your lobbyists and everything you're doing that you're preparing for it. So that's good to hear.
I'll share with you a conversation I just had with the city manager this morning, where we sort of touched base and talked about being ready for going after grant money for the CNG station. So these things the balls are up in the air, and as we find alignment and resources, we try to make sure that we're both ready for them and that we've planned for them with enough preparation. But again, all of what I say doesn't mean that we shouldn't still make sure that we know what the process is, that everybody on the committee doesn't know what we do, and maybe give input on how to tweak it.
Yeah.
I thought what we were bringing, we know, we've heard that there's as much as they can handle right now in grants. They're looking transportational. I think the proposal when it came up was we were to say, are there other opportunities on the side, and maybe these private foundations we could bring in, but then you're probably going to need help to put the grant together and then monitor it. But yeah, there is a system going on right now is looking for additional opportunities.
That I was not aware of that, so it's good to hear. It's good to hear. It's good to get that information out, I think.
But your concern is well-founded, because in the past, under a prior arrangement, we had a staff member it was their job to constantly be looking for grant opportunities. And that was the predominant part of their job. When we hit financial tighten your belt period, we didn't staff that anymore, and we distributed that work across existing staff to take responsibility as it relates to their department on making sure that they were ready and aligned with whatever grants we can come up with. So you're right in that there was more visibility, and we did at least have a staff member that was targeted to that. That's not how we've been doing it for a while, but that doesn't mean that we have been neglecting it.
I'm all for free money, so if you can get it.
And then the last item is to develop a financial training program for the general public. And while it's still out there, something that does need to be done, we see that as being off in the distance, a couple, 3 months. We want to take care of some of these others that we can deal with. But that is still being worked on and still will be developed. Any other comments on these tasks? Okay, and then let's move to future agenda items.
Can I just ask one question that's not on agenda? Audit, city manager, are we still on track with our audit right now? I know Jeff is trying to do the report over the holidays. Are we in track to follow?
So I was going to update that on your finance.
On the finance director's comments?
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. All right, so future agenda. I do have one thing I would like to have included. A couple of meetings ago, the City Council asked us to do some in-house audits and in-house verification. Barry and I took that responsibility to start looking to make sure that some of the programs and some of the plans that were implemented, to make sure that we were following through and maintaining those solutions are staying in place. And the first one, Barry and I went in and requested and got copies, or saw copies of all the bank recs, and Barry reported back to the City Council that we had verified that bank recs are being done and they were current. And this last week, Barry and I were going to go check for the documentation to support the payment requests. And in requesting that information, Barry became aware that there's a new process going into place and some trainings have been coming. And it's my understanding that we'll be advised of when that does occur. Should be occurring shortly, and Barry and I will have an opportunity to review and see exactly what that training is and what's there. So we're moving forward. Barry and I have a plan of another item that we want to check this month, but we don't want to jump out and tell what it is. We'd like it to be something that is not known to everybody, so that we don't have anybody trying to anticipate. So what I'd like to see on the future agenda is just a line item for a report from our internal review committee, audit group, whatever, on a monthly basis, and we'll report back in this meeting, and Barry as the treasurer can take that forward to the city council meetings.
I think it's a good idea. You want it for next agenda?
Yeah, just as a regular agenda item that will appear.
We're going to try and pick an item each month on the audit report that we are looking to improve. Everybody signed off that we've got a process. We're now going to review the processes.
You know, it's across the board, from cash control to training to, there are a number of things. You look back to the state report that came and the other documents with that. And we just want to make sure that those are being done. You know, it's easy when something's first implemented. Everybody's all excited to get doing it and hop on top of it. But as time goes by, it just kind of falls out of the forefront. We don't want to be hit with another finding or even an accusation that we're no longer staying on top of those issues.
In this regard?
Yes. So can we do that? Do we need? We don't need any kind of an action on that. No. Okay. So then we come down to the finance director's comments, and Todd, I take it you're handling that today?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I apologize, Mr. Mullenkamp is under the weather. So whatever bug is going around. I did not infect anybody, for the record. So.
Is he under the good weather we had this last couple of days, or he's under the bad weather?
He's under the bad weather, I think. Yeah. So, so the Poon Group is finishing up the final draft report on the audit. The plan is to present that to you guys in its final draft form, meaning its final, not preliminary draft, at your February meeting, and then to get that turned around and presented to council at its February 18th meeting. So one of the things I was going to ask is if we could have a little subcommittee try to schedule a meeting with the Poon Group to review the audit before it's presented to this body. My recommendation for that would be one of our council appointees, our chair, and then the treasurer to sit down and just to kind of walk through, ask any questions that need to be asked in their minds. And then as we roll that forward, you've got a little subcommittee information feedback that can be provided as we're presenting the final audit report. But we're talking about the whole thing. So you get the transmittal letter, you get the audit report itself, as well as management's responses. So you'll get the whole package at one time as the contemplated product for you guys. And you'll get it in time to review it before the meeting.
Okay, so you're anticipating that would be available to the subgroup prior to the committee's meeting.
Correct.
First part of February.
Correct. So,
Yeah, I'm available for that. Barry?
Be available. What else?
Yeah. So if you just let us know when it is,
you bet.
and yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
We'll
Appreciate
come
it.
together and find a time and jump on it.
And the purpose of this would be...
I think it's good. It's good practice in past cities. I've had subcommittees of council. We didn't have functional committees, but had subcommittees of council that would sit down and get to look eyeball to eyeball with the auditors and go through and kind of ask any questions and to delve into anything. And then that was helpful to the council as a whole, because when they got back, they could look at the audit committee and say, you're not just hearing from the auditor, you're not just hearing from staff. You've got members that have placed their own eyes and have had a chance to ask some questions in advance of that consideration as well. So,
But we as a committee of the whole are going to get the same report.
absolutely, you'll see the same thing, unchanged. So you'll see exactly what the subcommittee saw. But it's just one more. It's one more check. It's one more ability to be able to kick that document around a little bit. But I would like or request that become really our SOP, so that we have the subcommittee, that's our membership, and then every year that's the first review of the audit before it comes to the full committee to take a look at.
And that makes perfect sense to me. There's some things that have appeared in other audits that should have never been there. But I think what happened is there wasn't person or persons with enough knowledge of audit process, and it slid through. We should have never had findings that the city was lax in checking the room occupancy tax. That was such an insignificant amount of money, and yet it blew up and became an issue that should have never been there. And it was an oversight, and that's the kind of thing that we're hoping that this way, if we have someone looking at it, then when it comes to our committee, they've kind of been identified, and then we can target it instead of, boy, this is a huge thing to look at.
Okay, I like the idea. I like the idea of having that committee. As far as making it permanent, who's on it? The only reason I say the chair is kind of an audit guy. The chair in the future may not be an audit guy. So if you make the chair a permanent member of the committee...
But I think the membership would be permanent, just the process is permanent.
Okay.
I apologize. First of all, I was coughing and I didn't get a chance to. This kind of relates to what we're talking about, but it also relates to future agenda items, and that is that we do have to add a committee member, correct?
Yes.
In response to the public. So that should be coordinated with Nicole for when we're ready for that for a future agenda item. But we also have to look at reorganizing our own committee. So before we go forward with who should do the subcommittee, don't we want to make sure that we have also done the housekeeping of making sure that we potentially make a change? Sorry to but in your esteemed work that you've done so far, but at some time, don't we have to consider possibly whether we want to make an adjustment with the vice chair moving to the chair, or with doing some other reorganization? And should that be a precursor to making sure that we have the right cohesive group for the audit committee support that you talked about?
Well, the only issue there is we will need to meet before your next audit
Yeah.
committee
Yeah.
meeting.
Well,
So
I think so.
Yeah, for this one, I think we're in agreement, but talking about making this a permanent,
as you structure this moving forward, if you like it, you may not like the process.
Well, before we discuss like how to organize it permanently, I'd rather, for me anyways, have the committee, whoever it is that gets defined to be on it, be like the prototype, work it out, and then make a decision for in 6 months or whatever, how that worked out, whether there needs tweaking, and then make the permanent committee. Since it's the first time you've done it, because once you do it, you got to live with it for a while, and maybe it should be, I don't know, the treasurer and the newest member, whatever it is, but you might want to try it out first before you jump right off the cliff and make it a permanent way of doing it. That's just my thought.
You could just structure it so that you look every year at who the voluntold are going to be for that subcommittee.
yeah, that makes sense. So we'll do it this year with myself and Barry, and we'll evaluate how well that worked, if that makes sense. And then I like Todd's comment is that look at it 6 months before the next audit's going to come up, and determine at that point in time who's there that might be a good match, that might work, and we can go from there if we decide it was a worthwhile process.
I don't think we need to wait 6 months.
Well, we'll have an after action when this is done.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at process first. I hate to put people into jobs before you know
Right.
the process. So let's work it through. Let's see what we learn, how we feel about it. And I would like to see everybody have an opportunity in the future. But let's make the process. I think it's a great idea on a soundbite. And the second thing is, Nancy brought up, we need to have a discussion about a reorganization of the committee. So that should be the agenda.
At some point, yeah.
Well, it's the beginning of the year, I think.
We actually should have done it this meeting.
This meeting.
technically.
In the past, we have.
Yeah. So let's have that for agenda for.
Yes, reorganizations happen
Reorganization.
in February because the expiration is January.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the item for council to choose new committee members will be the next meeting. We wanted to allow extra time during the holidays for applicants. So that will happen not tomorrow's meeting, but the following, and then we'll have a new member come February, and then you guys will be able to reorganize.
Yeah, I don't even know if my term might be expiring. I don't know.
No.
No.
Your term never expires.
So
I do get older, though.
Well, one other question for y'all is whether you'd be open to changing the regular meeting date to the second Monday of the month. The first Monday, we're jammed up typically with city council meeting, because tomorrow night we have city council. So we're trying to get your packet done, city council packet, and then typically we have an economic development committee meeting that happens later in the week. So we're trying to get 3 packets out, and trying to get everybody covered completely can be a bit of a challenge. So
I like
just see
that
if you'd be open
I
to
think
that.
that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, I like that.
I changed another meeting board that I sit on from this Monday to the second Monday. We've been doing that for the last 5 months because I couldn't catch the both.
So that makes it hard on you.
Oh, yeah. Because we're gonna-
So that will require an action, and it will need to be agendized. We'll get that on next month's agenda.
And so
There's no law that says it has to be a Monday.
Well, it won't work.
No.
I can talk to, I have my meetings next Monday, I'll talk to my people.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the only comment I have is that the committee should never be a burden to city business. So if
Right.
it's beginning to be a burden on the agenda and stuff, then we have to really consider.
And
That's a great idea because we've had conflicts in the past running up against deadlines because of the way we structure our meetings. I don't know why somebody hasn't thought it's a great idea. Why?
yes, and so often we're seeing something on Monday that the city council is talking about on Wednesday, and I can see that an absolute problem. And I don't see any reason why we can't talk about it on this Monday, and the city council meeting's not for 10 more days. That shouldn't be an issue. Or even talking about something in our committee that won't be addressed at the next committee meeting or council meeting, but the council meeting following that. I think where we're sitting now does lend that concept, whether it's accurate or not, that boom, we talk about a Wednesday or a Monday, and on Wednesday the city council. That's too short of a turnaround. I agree.
I just want to say the only thing is we probably need to do this for next month because we're having that audit review. So if
Right.
we put that fast, I mean, I know it's kind of quick for you, but if we don't meet the second Monday of February, then it's
We couldn't make this change until after we have another meeting. We'll have to have it on the agenda and
yeah. But see what I'm saying? The next
Yeah.
meeting would be the first Monday, and then it would be
The first Monday's the 1st. And the report's going to be here the 8th, right?
Yep. So, you're going to get, the plan is to have the report to y'all on your February 3rd agenda. So we're on track with that. So we wouldn't look to implement this until March, let's say, if y'all decide
and that's the soonest I think we could.
if you want to do it.
Well, then let's put that on the agenda to change
Right.
that there, and I'll have a month to be able to
Right.
massage my.
Well, but again, Monday's nothing sacred about Monday. I mean, it could be Tuesday. If we're going
I can
off.
also make Tuesday the date too. So give us a month to do it.
Yes.
Right.
I can see.
We'll let your poker club come here. They can come here. They can.
I was going to say that.
Can you deal us?
There goes your invite to golf and the Tuckwood Men's Club.
You just have to tell them they have to bring refreshments, that's all.
That's it.
At least one hot order.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think we're clear that future general items that we're looking at is reorganization, consider whether we're going to reorganize, and that has a little bit to do with a new member and willingness of people to serve. They consider changing our meeting date and
The audit.
and a little internal audit review report as a standing report.
But in order to do the subcommittee that is going to do the liaison with the auditors, doesn't that have to be an action item at the next meeting? We can't decide to do that at this meeting because it's not an actionable item. We could.
Yeah, but we already have an internal. They've already been doing internal stuff.
So you're just going to add this to that?
I don't think it's
Yeah.
out of protocol to do that. I mean, I don't know what do you guys
Okay,
think.
so
Yeah, I
what
think that
hap-
was the
What
discussion.
happens when we reorganize? Do we change the people involved or not?
Well, no, because they're going to already review before that meeting comes, right? They're going to they're already starting that process.
Be a new group.
So going forward, then you're not. If we reorganize and change the chair position, you are not including the chair as the liaison.
Just the
It's
person.
It's the person, not the chair.
Okay, fine. All right. Okay. Just I need to be clear on
Yeah.
it. All right.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
'cause-
Yeah, and I think we discussed this 2 or 3 meetings ago, and the determination was made that it was a subcommittee. and
Remember
it-
it being that we decided who the people were, but okay, fine.
Okay. All right. Then I believe now we're ready for the finance director's comments.
Should we make it a formal vote that we establish this group to review Or are we just doing it this time on an informal basis?
Yeah, we're going to do it on an informal basis, and then I think what y'all can consider with your reorg moving forward. I know we're getting a little off agenda, but would be just like council does. They set subcommittee assignments, and it could be that every year moving forward with part of your reorganization would be the audit committee subcommittee or audit subcommittee that gets appointed. So.
But right now, it's a logical fit that we already have a subcommittee reviewing the audits in place. So this is just an extension of that current audit and not last year.
Right.
So it makes sense.
That we formally structure it, and y'all can look at making committee assignments with your reorganization moving forward.
As long as the minutes are clarified.
Piece of cake, right, Nicole?
Piece of cake.
Okay. So on director's comments, again, we've been monitoring. The Broncos are not going to be in the Super Bowl. Neither.
Not?
No, Saints won't either. So, but again, we're proceeding on. We brought our new budget analyst on board about a month ago. So we've got fully staffed in the department now. So we're excited. I've got some meetings scheduled for later this week with the finance team to begin talking about additional programming and things we're going to do. We're also implementing and working through our continuing disclosure training. So some of the staff have been going over the last several years to different CDAC sponsored and CDAC branded training. We'll be reaching out. I've already talked to Brian Forbath with Straddling Yoka about doing kind of another little staff training session. Typically, we do those in January, so they'll actually put together a PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll have a little sit-down meeting, and we'll kind of walk through that presentation, make sure everybody's up to speed on those trainings. That is all really kind of spurred on from the settlement that we entered into with the SEC. So we're continuing to monitor and do those things. And as mentioned a little earlier, we're looking for continuing training opportunities for our staff, whether it's cash handling, whether it's finance, accounting, accounts payable, accounts receivable. We're looking for those training sessions. And so we're continuing to develop and keep our staff moving forward. I will say that on the CDAC, the continuing disclosure training, my plan is to ensure that we continue to conduct that training on an annual basis forever. As long as I'm here, we'll continue to make sure that training is happening, particularly with disclosure requirements constantly evolving and changing. There's more things defined as material issues now than there were 2 years ago, which is becoming a point of some discussion in the industry. So we've got to keep abreast of those things and make sure they're happening. So that concludes my report for y'all this evening.
Thank you. That's the sum total of our agenda. Granted, it was shorter, very little time.
Well, I have my report out for tomorrow night's meeting.
Right.
I'm basically going to say that lacking the budget coming in last minute, that we're basically on target, and that they'll be coming forward in February with some adjustment. Nothing major, but just some adjustments. And I'll review the council assignment tasks that we talked about, where we stand on the 6 items. And I will review the audit report process that we're going to have with the dates, the subcommittee, then the February 8th, and then the February 18th for the council. Get it all?
I believe so. Anybody else have any comments? Yes.
Of course I do. When you do the review where you look at specific things, like you look at the bank reconciliations, I would like to see it in writing, what specifically you check. Like if you check bank reconciliations and you check backup for authorizations, I would like to see it in writing, either in reporting here or in reporting in council, that you looked at those specific items and that you found them to be adhering or you revisited, that it needs to be tightened, whatever it is that happens to be the appropriate outcome of your review. The reason that I'd like to see it in writing is because if we say informally, oh, we checked into it and everything looked good, it's not the same on public records as saying that we're constantly going back and revisiting to make sure that we're as close as possible to the best practices that we put in place in writing. So us informally talking about it is not public. It is public record, but it's not.
We are public
but it's
record.
kind of not unless somebody watches the meeting and pays attention. And nobody's writing down a verbal
That's not
transcript.
that's not difficult to do. And,
I just think
and
it's a
a
good
single
idea.
sheet could do it.
Yeah.
Something that we're looking at in the future has to do with the sample size, and we'll be calculating what sample size we need in order to be statistically accurate, and we can include those little things
Yeah,
very easily.
I don't see a need to make it complicated, but I
Yeah.
do see that if you're doing the work and you're looking at it, you should at least make some sort of a one-line notation that this is what you went back and looked at it this week, or this month rather, because then we can track too whether we're looking at everything. Otherwise, we have to remember that it was 3 months ago you looked at bank reconciliations and you looked at backup for authorizations. If you have it in writing on the report that's part of this, or you have it as part of the input in writing to this meeting, there's a continual trail of what it is that we looked at.
Would you accept something as simple as a type of checklist where they could check it and just initial, so you don't have to have anything per se written, but at least we know that they've checked that?
Where that goes, won't this be in the minutes? If we come in and report,
It would have to be sent to me so I can attach it to the agenda, and then it would be.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
There's no catch for it unless we.
Yeah, and
I
so
just want to make sure we just don't do it. It gets
Yeah.
somewhere where you can find it.
Yeah, just for clarification, what I'm understanding and what I'm visualizing is, okay, we're talking about bank recs, and so, okay, Barry made an oral report that we had done the bank recs, but we could do a simple little line that
Absolutely.
we checked for the bank recs and we found that the following bank
We saw
recs
3 months
were
back. We had silent
reconciled.
bank recs for 3 months back.
Yep.
Yep, just
One
one or
line.
two lines.
Just a one line.
That's it.
And we can do that regardless of whatever it is we're doing in the future. Yes.
A better way to
That-
track.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're just
Yeah.
talking about what we
And
do it.
when we get reviewed again on a state level or whatever, we can say, here's what you looked at before, here's how we fixed it, and here's how we're showing that we're continuing to monitor it.
Yeah. Now,
Simple fix.
the only thing I would just caution is that, remember, we don't want to make overly cumbersome for staff. So you want enough to be transparent to the public and, do your job and say that I looked, but we don't want to create more excessive work than I think might be necessary to cover, whatever you feel more comfortable with. But
I'm not asking, my suggestion is not for staff to do one extra thing at all. I'm
I'm talking about the requests.
I'm
So if they,
requesting this committee
right, but I'm talking.
writing that verifies that they in fact did.
Right, and I'm speaking to the internal committee, the subcommittee. When you go in, I just want to make sure we're not asking for
No, I
bills
think
and stuff,
the most
vending the wheel.
extensive that I can see that we would ever do is perhaps cash handling.
Right.
And just coming in and talking to the supervisor there saying, hey, what are you guys doing with cash handling?
But didn't you
These
already,
two people been,
The what?
didn't you already do that when you looked at the bank records?
We looked back, but we didn't look at the cash.
yeah, we just went to Jeff and asked for the bank recs, and he pulled the files out.
So they're already
So,
doing the requests of staff. So what I said isn't complicating that at all.
No, but I'm talking to them specifically. I just want to, when they go in and look at their stuff,
We don't
they're not.
and we aren't. And we're looking to piggyback on events. Like there's a new credit card that's going to be issued to everybody instead of having a Home Depot and various things. We want to watch and observe the process of how that is handed out.
Yeah.
So we're just going to observe a process.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not going to add to it.
And we want you as comfortable as you are, because if you're going to initial something, we want to make sure that you feel comfortable with that.
And that's no work on the staff, that's just us.
Right.
But we have to remember too, that we're an oversight process.
Right.
We don't manage staff. We don't tell staff what to do. We're not their supervisors. We're an oversight and check and balance process on procedures and policies that are put in place by council. And that is our only role.
Right. And I would anticipate, I'm hoping we're never going to see anything, but if we did, now, had we gone to the bank recs and there were missing, it wouldn't be our place and we wouldn't have spoke to any staff members that these are missing. Why? We'd have come back with a report to the council that we didn't see these bank recs. Let council figure out if there's a reason why. It's not for us to...
And everything, resource-wise, where you do have to talk to staff, really has to be done underneath the umbrella of the city manager. He's the one that is in charge of whether they have time to do anything.
Right.
But so I just want to make sure that we don't end up messing this up and having to step back because we've created too much of a burden. So.
Well, hopefully the employees that you interact with, if they somehow feel overburdened or whatever, will let their supervisor know, and the message will get back to somebody. There's a check and balance in this whole process, so.
Although I will, reify that as an elected official for Barron, you could go directly to Todd and ask him about something that you guys saw without having to wait for council.
And I've talked to
Yeah,
Todd.
I know you have.
My
That's why I
observations.
say- Yeah, and I'm for
Go to Todd.
and thank you for that. I'm very comfortable with that, so
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And it's just been comfortable. There's not been any issues at all, so there's not been a burden. And especially Mr. Genetti keeps promising Philly cheesesteaks, so they can't wait for him to come in again. Mr. Coop.
See, ever since he came back from Texas, it's all been about food.
it's
I've
all-
noticed it's been about food and
You
barbecue.
have a
and
big
everything.
breakfast and I could bring some Philly scrapples.
Ooh,
Scrappled eggs.
Well,
that's
I do bring that in. I'd have that shipped in.
I'm so
Okay.
glad I'm not on the committee.
I don't know.
So let's go ahead and adjourn this, and then we can discuss our Epicurean delight. So it looks like we're adjourning by computer time at 6:52 p.m. And our next meeting, as has previously been stated, will be Monday, February 3rd at 6 p.m.